One riff, one chorus, one slip-up. That's all it took for some of the biggest names in rock to land in court. Millions were on the line, careers were almost crushed, and in some cases, the artist wasn't even sure what they were being sued for. You'd think legends like Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, or the Rolling Stones would be untouchable, but even they couldn't dodge the heat. From eerie similarities to flat-out copying, they rewrote the rules of what counts as original in rock music. So, which rock star got away with it, and who paid the price? Let's start with the iconic case of Coldplay versus Joe Satriani. Joe Satriani, a renowned guitarist, took Coldplay to court over their smash hit Viva la Vida. He accused the band of ripping off his instrumental track, If I Could Fly. When you listen to both, it's hard to ignore the similarities, the melody, the overall vibe. There's a certain unmistakable connection between the two. Satriani wasn't having it and demanded compensation. Coldplay called it a coincidence. For their defense, the band insisted that Viva la Vida was an entirely original creation, with no inspiration drawn from Satriani's work. Despite the strong claims from both sides, the case was eventually settled out of court. The exact terms of the settlement have never been revealed, leaving fans and the media to speculate. The real issue here wasn't just about who copied what, it was about the line between influence and plagiarism in music. How much can a song be inspired by another before it crosses into the territory of theft? On number 2, we have Robin Thicke versus Marvin Gaye's estate. In one of the most high-profile copyright lawsuits in recent years, Marvin Gaye's estate sued Robin Thicke and Pharrell Williams over their mega-hit Blurred Lines. The estate claimed the song borrowed heavily from Gaye's 1977 track, Got to Give It Up. But it wasn't just about the melody, it was the overall groove and feel of the songs. Gaye's estate argued that the vibe of the two tracks was far too similar to be a coincidence. After a lengthy and contentious legal battle, the jury sided with Gaye's estate. Robin Thicke and Pharrell Williams were ordered to pay $7.4 million in damages, which was later reduced. This case set a huge legal example. It wasn't about direct copying of melody or lyrics. It was about the feel of the music. Many in the music industry thought the verdict was dangerous, potentially opening the door to more lawsuits based on musical style. The case had a chilling effect on many artists, who now feared that their music could be targeted for even the slightest resemblance to older tracks. The next one is the strangest ever, John Fogerty versus himself. What if you get sued for plagiarizing your own music? Sounds insane, right? But that's exactly what happened to John Fogerty after he left Creedence Clearwater Revival. In the 1980s, Fogerty released The Old Man Down the Road. And suddenly, his former record label, Fantasy Records, immediately sued him. They claimed the song sounded way too much like CCR's Run Through the Jungle, a track Fogerty himself had written. The irony? Fogerty was being accused of copying a song he created in the first place. This bizarre lawsuit stemmed from a long-standing feud between Fogerty and Fantasy. To prove his innocence, Fogerty took the stand and played both songs live in court. He showed that the two tracks were in fact different. After much legal wrangling, the jury sided with Fogerty, ruling in his favor. It was one of the most unusual copyright battles in rock history. On number 4 is Oasis versus Neil Innes. Oasis found themselves facing legal trouble over their hit song, Whatever.
Whatever I choose and I'll sing the bluesy fly once. I'm free.
Neil Innes, a member of the comedy band The Ruddles, took them to court, claiming the track was too similar to his 1973 song, How Sweet to Be an Idiot.
To be an idiot, as harmless.
The resemblance between the two songs was hard to ignore. Innes argued that Oasis had borrowed heavily from his melody and structure. Oasis didn't fight back aggressively. Instead, they quickly acknowledged the similarities, admitting that the borrowing was unintentional. They reached a settlement by giving Innes co-writing credit on the song, allowing him to share in the royalties. The whole ordeal ended with a chuckle from Innes, who joked that the settlement allowed him to buy a nicer house. While Oasis still kept their hit, the legal battle served as a reminder that even unintentional borrowing can lead to pricey consequences. Next is the Rolling Stones versus the Verve. The Verve had a massive hit with Bittersweet Symphony.
It's a bittersweet symphony that's life.
But there was a problem. The song used a sample from the Rolling Stones track The Last Time. They had permission to use a small portion of it, but they went too far, using more than they were allowed, and that got them in serious trouble.
Be the last time, maybe the last time.
Alan Klein, the Rolling Stones' former manager, took action. He wasn't about to let this slide. The Verve lost all the royalties from their biggest song, 100% of the profits. Imagine that. In the end, the legal battle dragged on for years. In 2019, Mick Jagger and Keith Richards finally gave the rights back to Richard Ashcroft, the Verve's lead singer. While Ashcroft got the rights back, the damage was done. The Verve lost a fortune, and the public backlash against Klein's actions made him a villain in the eyes of many. Just a reminder of how easy it is to get tangled in the mess of music royalties. One mistake, and it costs a lot. On number 6 is the Beatles versus Chuck Berry.
Stop, he come, grooving up slowly. Got juju eyeball.
In 1973, music publisher Morris Levy filed a lawsuit on behalf of Chuck Berry's catalog, claiming that the Beatles' Come Together borrowed from Berry's 1956 song You Can't Catch Me. The problem? That lyric, Here Come Old Flat Top, was lifted almost word for word.
Here come a flat top, he was moving up with me, then come waving goodbye and a little old.
Instead of fighting it out in court, John Lennon made a deal. He agreed to record a cover of You Can't Catch Me on his next solo album. No co-writing credit, no royalties, just a smart way to settle things quietly. It was a strategic move by Lennon to avoid more legal trouble while still tipping his hat to Berry's influence. The case didn't put a dent in Lennon's image, and it gave Berry's song a second life. On number 7 is Led Zeppelin and Spirit. Led Zeppelin got hit with a lawsuit by the estate of Spirit's guitarist, Randy California. They claimed that Stairway to Heaven took its iconic intro from Spirit's instrumental track, Taurus. The lawsuit wasn't just about the riff. It was mainly about the influence. Led Zeppelin had toured with Spirit in the late 60s, so the estate believed there was enough time for the band to hear Taurus and use it. Jimmy Page, though, didn't remember Taurus at all. He argued that the riff in Stairway was 100% original. The lawsuit stretched on for years. Finally, in 2016, a jury sided with Zeppelin, and the case was dismissed. But the debate still hasn't ended. Did they rip it off, or was it just a happy coincidence? It's tough to say. Even though the case was closed, music fans and critics still argue over it. And how can we skip this? Radiohead versus Lana Del Rey. In 2018, Radiohead came after Lana Del Rey. They said her song Get Free was way too similar to their 1992 hit, Creep. The melody, the chord progression, and the feel. It was hard to ignore the resemblance. Del Rey, trying to avoid a courtroom showdown, offered to give Radiohead a percentage of the royalties. But Radiohead didn't want just a percentage. They wanted full control over the song. This wasn't Radiohead's first brush with a similar lawsuit. They'd already faced legal trouble for Creep when the Hollies accused them of borrowing from The Air That I Breathe. The case against Del Rey never went to court, but it sparked a big conversation about musical originality. How much influence is too much? What counts as borrowing? And what's stealing? It's a tricky line to walk. On number 9 comes Chuck Berry versus the Beach Boys.
And an ocean across the USA.
The Beach Boys hit it big with Surfin' USA, but it wasn't entirely their song. The melody and chord structure came straight from Chuck Berry's Sweet Little 16.
They're really rocking in Boston and Pittsburgh, PA.
Brian Wilson, the mastermind behind the Beach Boys, called it a tribute to Berry. But Chuck Berry wasn't impressed. He saw it as more than a nod. To him, it was a ripoff. His legal team went after the Beach Boys, demanding songwriting credit and royalties. The pressure from Berry's side was too much, and the Beach Boys had to give in. In the end, Chuck Berry got the credit he deserved. But here's the interesting part. This legal drama ended up helping Berry. The case brought attention back to his music, giving him a boost in the 60s rock scene. And we saved the most popular one for the end. Sam Smith versus Tom Petty.
Will you hold my hand? Oh, won't you stay with me?
Sam Smith's Stay With Me went straight to the top. But then came trouble. Tom Petty thought it sounded way too much like his 1989 track, I Won't Back Down. The melody and the feel were nearly identical.
Stand me up at the gates of hell, but
Petty's team didn't take it lightly. Instead of dragging it out in court, Sam Smith's team took the more peaceful route. They added Tom Petty and Jeff Lynne as co-writers on the track, acknowledging the similarity. It wasn't a messy lawsuit. It wasn't about who did what wrong. Instead, it was about recognizing where the inspiration came from. Even though Smith and Petty worked it out behind the scenes, the case highlights a bigger issue. Sometimes a tiny detail, like a chord or a melody, can trigger a legal storm. Which of these rock royalty courtroom showdowns shocked you the most? Were the lawsuits fair, or just part of the crazy world of rock and roll, where anything goes? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to know what you think about these wild legal battles. And hey, if you're into this kind of rock history, hit that like button and subscribe for more behind-the-scenes stories. Keep the music alive and keep the conversation going.